everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Career Backstage podcast. My name is Diana Morano, and I'm the co-CEO of a World company. Today, we will talk about how to prevent mobbing and burnout. So we are honored to introduce our special guest speaker, Benjamin von Seeger. So Benjamin is the CEO of BVS Consulting throughout years and has held key sales position at FiberNet Telecom Groups, Terremark World Wide, MCI and Mannesmann Telecommunications in the US and also in Germany. Benjamin is a multilingual professional with proficiency in 5 languages: English, Italian, Romanian, German, and Spanish. He has recently completed an advanced management program at Harvard Business School. Throughout his career, he has won several global awards. Welcome, Benjamin, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation at Career Backstage.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I think it's a great platform to have people look at something else than bad news on the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's a really relevant topic. That's why people who are watching us, I really invite you to, drop the questions in the comment box and we will get back to you because, as I said, this is a really important topic and I'm pretty sure everyone actually went through burnout. So Ben and me, we're going to kind of share some tips and tricks and also really valuable insights. So Ben, actually people know quite a lot of things about you, but what is not so well known about you? Just please feel free to share something that people don't know about you.
I'm an avid athlete. I was a professional swimmer for 10 years in the national team of Germany. And the way I keep my sanity and my mental health is I like to work out a lot and I like to do a lot of sports. So especially now I live in Switzerland. In the wintertime, I go skiing a lot. And in the summertime, I work out, and after my workout in the evening, I go to the lakes. We have over 7,000 lakes in Switzerland. So everywhere you drive around, you always can find a lake, and you just go swimming for a little bit to recharge the batteries. So I'm not just a suit, I do a lot of sports.
Yeah, and I was really impressed that you know so many languages and you are so multilingual. I mean, I know a little bit of Italian also, but I was really impressed that you actually speak Romanian.
Also with the territory a little bit because I went to the international school in Munich and there were only like 20 seats and 5,000 candidates, and you had to know your main subjects in economy, but also the second criteria of selecting those candidates back then in the day is in the 90s. It was I had to do exams in 2 other languages than the mother tongue, which was German. So I picked English and Italian at that time. And then through the years, I got assigned to work on a very, very large project in South America, and I had to learn Spanish. So I learned Spanish very quickly. But there is a technique to learn languages, and people always get very intimidated with learning another language. Of course, you have to be a little bit apt for doing that. But you need about 3,000 to 4,000 words, a little bit of basic grammar. And the German grammar is based on the Latin grammar. So I also know the Latin language because I study also law a little bit. So if you have the foundation, then it's easy to go into. I'm studying Portuguese right now and French as well. So if a French company needs me to speak French in 3 months, I have to speak French.
Brilliant. Yeah, so let's actually go a little bit more in deep, I would say, and talk about burnout and mobbing. So let's first of all explain people what is mobbing, just to get a little bit of understanding.
So mobbing is a term that not many people are using it, and I even talked to an attorney in America that is specialized in helping employees who are fired. And I said, what about mobbing? He said, what is that? I said, well, you don't even know what it is. And you are an attorney that tell me you have 20 years experience in supporting employees that got fired for unequal things. So just with a simple verb, not to go through a Webster definition, is basically being bullied. That's what mobbing is. And it can happen in numerous forms. And the problem with the mobbing is that you don't realize, but mobbing fuels to burnout, and you don't see that. So the mobbing, it's happening in what I've seen in 90% of the cases. Because the funny thing is that you can experience it within your own company, but I travel so much and I've been into so many companies as a not as an employee, but as a visitant. And it's, sometimes people don't realize that, you have me in a meeting and I'm extremely observant in meetings. I'm extremely observant. And I could tell you immediately the moment I leave, if people in a particular company are happy or they're not happy. I can tell you right away. You can tell by the way they talk to you. You can tell by the way they receive you at the reception. You can tell by the body language in the meetings. I mean, it's just incredible. And they don't see it because they are. Think about the working place, so everybody can understand. Very simple. I like to use a very simple example, like an aquarium. If that aquarium has beautiful fish in it, but the water is dirty and it's toxic, those beautiful fish are going to die. So that's your working place. That's your working environment. And in Germany, the mobbing was extremely strong in the 90s. I can tell you as much that it got worse through my experience. What I feel that through social media, through all these things, it's just not. I've seen so many companies that they're not being presided in a healthy way, and it's all about greed. I don't see transparency in the workforce. I see a lot of unhappy, physically, mentally, emotional, exhausted employers. Like, I was working with people delivering certain services, and they were literally like, please help me with this. If you don't do this for me, Monday I'm no longer here. So, I mean, you can't, drive a company where you basically put the gun to people's heads. And my other problem was I always work very, very closely, and I always team up with female colleagues. Actually, my first CEO in America, she was a lady, and I learned a lot from her. And I still look at websites all over the world. I'm not going to pick a country. And it's still this, and this comes from me, white privileged men driving companies. And we can pick up now 100 websites, and from 100 websites, if you find 5 or 6 women in C-level positions on their website, it's a lot. And that says a lot about it, because, in the society, I tell all the time people, when I was working with Jamie, it was a great team, because we would walk into a room full of 14 men, and I was with her. If I was alone with 14 guys, it's very hard to negotiate. Like that, you partner together. She knows how to take care of that. I know how to take care of the other side. If have to meet with female executives, sometimes the female executives see competitiveness in her, so I would step in. So you have to build your team, and just building the team, or that we came to this in 2021. Like, for example, in Germany, that the president of the country has to decide and tell public companies that you have to have 35% of your board and of your executive team formed of women. I mean, you're being forced as an executive to do this. I mean, that's already a big question. I mean, my wife is a neurosurgeon. My other friends are lawyers, judges. They are female executives. So I've seen female employees doing a way better job in sales than a lot of male executives that they think that the territory belongs to them. And that's a part of the entitlement. And, to go back to the tema of mobbing, what's going to happen is if you do work for someone that is your boss, or is usually the mobbing comes from the top, right? If the chief executive officer, the chairman of the company, is stuck in the 50s, and he's leading that company in that way, and have a boss who is power hungry, who's narcissistic, who is, who feels threatened by your qualities. That's why when I told you, the moment I published the book, I became a threat immediately. I mean, I literally got an email from the legal department. I'm not going to say which company I was at the time. I got an email from the legal department with with exactly what I was allowed to post in my social media networks. And, I wasn't a big fan of the social media. Before the book, I didn't even have social media, because my position was, when Mark Zuckerberg is going to pay me $19.99 a month to give him free content, I will join the company. To that, I didn't see any reason for me to. I'm also a private individual, but when I published the book, the publisher came to me and said, listen, if you want to sell the book, you got to go online. You have no other choice. I only had LinkedIn because to me, LinkedIn is the only platform that to 99% people are verified. If you try to say that you went to Harvard, that you work for my company, that you work for the other company, LinkedIn immediately you're going to do it's very easy. They have an algorithm to do a check. And if you're not there, you are flying out right away. So, but, and I did not want to have that. So I just stood there and I just got an email. Nobody came to me from human resources. And I was working very closely. I always work very closely with human resources because I never hired anybody without talking to HR. I even called the guy from HR and I said, hey, why you just didn't have the courtesy? Pick up the phone and call me, say, hey, you're getting this email. I got the email. The first thing I do, because I lived in America over 20 years, I call my lawyer. I send it to my lawyer. I say, you have to look at this. And she's like, this is very serious. And then the whole thing, because my boss or my partner, business partner, didn't sit down with me and say, hey, we're going to send this email because we don't want to, find a reason. We don't want to intricate the marketing. We have to be careful and we have to make sure that our brand does not stay separate from your brand because, I have a massive presence in social media. I mean, despite the fact 6 years ago I didn't have social media, now I have over 300,000 followers combined when the company didn't have not even 30,000. So they were like, my brand was bigger than their brand. They said, but they could have come to me and say, hey, we're going to give you these instructions and we're going to, moving forward, we're going to make sure that you are going to have certain guidelines on what you do and what you don't do. And that would be fine. But no, I just got an email and I just got a phone call where all the executives start shooting at me. And it was not even my error, actually, because, you go to a trade show. These guys from a trade show, they pick everything from the internet and they pick up a picture of me promoting me for this particular company in the trade show. And I was holding the book. And it wasn't even me doing that, right? That was the graphic designer from the trade show. And I said, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. And, well, this is the tweet and this is this. And I said, well, look at the tweet who posted the tweet. It wasn't me. I didn't give him anything because right now, if you go online and put Benjamin von Seeger, you can find everything. Before, it was not like that. And, I didn't know what to do and I didn't say anything. I said, you guys go this route, I go the other route. And the whole thing escalated immediately because, you already get lawyers involved. I'm like, well, this comes from the legal department. So he comes from a legal department. He didn't know what to tell me. He said he was told from HR to put this together. So I'm going to my attorney because, you also have to protect your assets. So the point is that if if someone feels threatened, they're gonna do everything in their arsenal to get rid of you, or they're gonna make your life miserable until you say, you know what, I'm leaving on my own. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, Benjamin, you just mentioned about a few factors, for example, that contribute to mobbing in the workplace, like toxic environment. But I'm just wondering, for example, everyone now talking about multicultural environment and also about diversity and about equality in the workplace. So I'm just wondering, for example, if multicultural environment or diversity are through the factors that can contribute to the mobbing in the workplace, or what other kind of factors have a really important role in contributing to the mobbing.
Yes, the cultural factor is extremely important because, for example, when I went to the US, I was really in shock when I was visiting companies. There were pretty large companies, Fortune 500, and the husband, the wife, the child, everybody worked in that company. So it's a very, very strong nepotism, right? And also in organizations that I work was the same thing. At one point, we have to hire this person and this person is going to report to you. And I would be like, what am I supposed to do with this? She has zero experience, or they have zero experience. They don't know nothing about what I'm doing, where I need to go. But when I go to Germany, that's impossible. You will never see Deutsche Bahn AG zum Beispiel, for example. Sorry, I'm seeing German now. You'll never see the German trail system. The CEO and the wife working in the same company. That's unheard of. That's never going to fly. I mean, immediately, that's not going to work. But, cultural things and But I'm also telling a lot of candidates, because a lot of people come to me, oh, I'm quitting my job, look at my resume, I'm looking for another thing. I always tell them, you need to research the corporate culture of the company. And also what I did, you can always fail, of course. I also requested, for my positions, I had to have numerous interviews, like the apprentice. I had to meet the CEO, the CFO, the CTO, so all the C-level executive mostly. But I also say I want to spend half a day over there, and I want to see for myself how it is,
How well do you fit? Obviously, how well you're gonna feel?
Because I know myself. I'm German. I'm very aggressive. I'm very driven. At the beginning, I come across not rude, but very abrasive, because I am. When it's about business, it's about business. I'm extremely focused. Especially, I remember I started in a company years ago, and around out the attorney that became my best friend, she said, "Ben, the first day I hated you. I thought it was the biggest a-hole in the world." But then I realized that you are extremely focused on work, and we're in the middle of a very large trade show in Washington, and you are just your mind was only on that. Nothing else around you mattered, and you bossed some people around you that were just sitting around there, and you were occupying your meeting room. But the way you did it, and the art and the way you had to be a little bit different, the delivery. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I'm like, when we spend over $100,000 and I have 10 meetings a day for 3 days, I don't have time to babysit people that are not, they know they're not supposed to be there, So, but that doesn't mean that I'm rude. That doesn't mean that I wasn't nice to them and told them, hey, I need a room. I'm sorry, you gotta go. It's just that, you always have to look into the culture of the company. And yes, of course, if you see that the culture is not diverse, and I think this is a global problem, because I've been in meetings in Hong Kong and I noticed that right away. I've been in meetings in Singapore, I noticed it right away. I've been in Malaysia, it was horrible. And, I can tell about United States horror stories where, not organizations that I worked in. The thing is that, you see, this is the thing with a bully. A bully will always try to bully you because you're better than them. And the first thing that they do, they attack. So, but this is the thing, I always ignore them, and I knew how to deal with them. And luckily I was always protected because I was the top producer. So I spent only 10% of my time inside the company. So when I'm out all the time, years later, they told me, oh, they were saying all these things about yesterday. I really don't care. I mean, because I read a lot and I watch a lot of books, and there was the opera singer Maria Callas, and someone came to her, oh, the newspaper are saying this, and you're having this, you're doing this. She's like, people are going to talk, so I cannot keep everybody happy. What was to me important is that my customers were happy, and I delivered what I was supposed to deliver. When people then dropped that because I published a book, they took it personally. They took it that I did it just to, I don't know, just to hurt them, but I didn't do that to prove anything to anybody. I did it because the students asked me to do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Originally, when it was the question about the book, I was like, I barely have time to read my books, so I'm not getting in the middle of writing a book right now. And a friend of mine, who is a coach, who's very smart, he said, oh yeah, you're going to write a book. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, yes, you do. And it happened. But again, going back to our subject, the boss who's narcissistic and he has a lot of yes people around him, it's going to be detrimental to the organization. And I've seen this in some of my customers. And one time a CEO said, Ben, you are one of the nicest and smartest guy that comes into my office. Tell me what you think about this person. And I'm like, off the record, outside at lunch, I will tell you. In your office, I'm not going to tell you. And then I will tell them, look, it's not professional. I don't see the interest. I don't see this. I don't see that. And I don't know, if it's your company. But just to run a few numbers, because I'm a numbers guy. I read a Gallup study when I sent the note last night, just to be a little bit prepared, because everything else otherwise is in my head, more or less, about the subjects. A Gallup study shows that about 23% of employees, they feel burnout, they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel empowered. And I tell you how this starts. This starts with the interview. If you go into an interview and they tell you a few things, run for the hills. When they tell you, we are looking for someone to hit the ground running, you immediately have to answer. You immediately have to say, yes, I can hit the ground running. Are you going to invest in me? Meaning, are you going to give me training? Are you going to give me development? In so many companies I started personally, and I've been witness, you're hired, they expect you to know everything how it works. Salesforce, all the tools, all the apparatus. There was no company in America that I know that they were using training. This just doesn't exist. In Germany, was a different story. In Germany, the Germans are extreme. You go in a boot camp for the first 6 to 8 months, where you learn everything from how to dress, on how to use your body language. They give you the disc training. They give you all the trainings that you need, and you also work in the same time. And you have a babysitter next to you that you attend meetings with, and so you learn on the job, so to speak. So, but is that system going to come back? I don't know. I hope so, because I firmly believe that I became so good at my job and like a chameleon to do what I need to do in order to be successful because of that training. And I go back to that training. I still have the books, and I always go back and I say, I have to believe in this. This has to work. I don't want to be in that 23%. So if you have a company of 100 people, 23 are not happy. And that's a problem. Your productivity disappears. And then 44%, sometimes they're not happy or they're not sure. And then burnout, if you feel burnout, it's 2.6 times likely that you're going to search for another job, because it's not possible. And I remember that, it would be Friday and I would be happy, Saturday great, and already Sunday, when it's Monday already, you feel in the back of your head that something is already there. So, and because you have to go back and deal with a narcissist or deal with crazy people. So, and the other thing that I think that drives to this, at least in the States mostly, is this greed, the having. Okay. And the fact that there's the sky's the limit. Like, I met also executives that were having $22 million salary, and they were extremely nice, but most of them, 99% of them, they're not. They're treating the people around them like, I don't want to use bad words in your podcast, but it's incredible how they're treating people. And luckily now in the last 3, 4, 5 years with the Me Too movement, with Time's Up, finally people are speaking out because, one thing that I feel that I don't feel bad is about the fact that I always speak up about it. I always did. And it cost me. It cost me because the moment you do that, you enter the divorce section, and it cost me, and I didn't care. And I got the lawyer involved, like with the situation, your social media has to be like this and this. And, and again, it really doesn't matter. In another situation, I was a partner in the business, and they were supposed to give me the moment we started our relationship as a partner. I wasn't even an employee in the business. They were supposed to give me another package of shares, another vehicle of shares. And they didn't do it. And I kept asking January, February, March. I asked for it 1 year. And then my attorney, who takes care of everything, because, I have so many things going on, Diana, that I have people that are supporting me because I cannot do everything, and that's not my style. My style is to be the quarterback and go and score and close the deals and focus on what's coming next, and I'm excited about what's coming next. But then the lawyer just told me one day, the lawyer that thought I was a monster, and now we're friends, this is 7 years later into this let's say venture. She's like, I don't have this package of stock. Where is it? I'm like, well, they haven't said it to me. She didn't say anything to me. She sent an email directly to the CEO of that company, and everything broke loose. I didn't know that she sent that email because she's authorized to do whatever she wants because she works with me, right? She's my team partner. She doesn't have to come to me like a little child. Hey, do I do this? No. And immediately I was called into a meeting, and the board was already brought in. I was like, hold on a second, what is going on? I had no idea what was going on. And this CEO walked in screaming and kicking, and you want to go with lawyers? And I said, can you please tell me what's going on? And she pulls up this email. I was copied on the email, but I get so many emails, Diana, that I don't, how should I say, if I see an email from her, unless it's urgent and review this agreement, okay, it's another email from the lawyer, I will review it later. But within an hour, I didn't see the email, but within an hour, this woman went ballistic. And immediately they put a termination contract in front of me, and immediately put this, or you want to go with lawyers? I said, no, you take this wrong. I don't want to go with lawyers, but this is where the mobbing begins, and this is where the burnout ends, right? Because people are reacting all the time. Instead of coming to me and say, hey, what's this email about? She already called the board. And then it came to their detriment, because I had a contract which said that I invested this amount of money and they have to give me this. And they had a year to do that, and I haven't done it. So their lawyer said, we are in default here, and if we don't do this today, we have to pay a penalty. So their attorney was like schooling them, their executive team. What you guys did with this guy that was nice guy, you were wrong. Okay, you can wait 60 days, 30 days, 90 days, but not 360. So and my attorney, she was like, well, they had to do it, and the same day they did it, but the same day they basically terminated the relationship because I went to attorneys. I'm like, well, the lawyer said, whatever you do, you're crazy. It's just that this is the thing that I think that, what is missing is I mean, it's a lot of greed and competitiveness in there, but then you have a lot of toxic and negative people. So it's an explosive combination. It's like the perfect storm when you put all this together. And, when I went with my best intention, I only told them, look, I gave you money. You are supposed to give me shares in return. That's how it works. I said, I should have been stupid. I'm stupid because I should have said the same day, because they told me, our attorneys, they don't have the package ready yet. At the same time, I should have said, you know what? I have to get this week. If I don't get it this week, don't go there, or immediately get the lawyer right away. But I said, let me be a nice guy and let's work through that. So, because the question is what organizations can do to prevent mobbing in the workplace. Well, you got to do the right things for employees. I mean, how do I expect a company to do the right things for the employees when they're not doing the right things for their partners? I mean, I own a percentage in that company right now, and right now they are very furious with me because it's been 4 or 5 years, and they cannot do anything with that particular business without me. So now I'm the one that I don't even deal with it. I have my attorney dealing with it. So that's why you have to find resources when you get into the situation that you get away from these toxic and negative people. And I know the worst is the fact that I've seen this again globally at a global level. There is no transparency. The board is meeting in secret. Then the C-level meeting is secret. Then when the people find out something that's happening in the company, it's embarrassing because they find out just from the press release when already so many people know what's going on. So I don't understand why. I understand when you are selling a company you can't, because there are certain rules that you have to play by, but there are so many other things that it just doesn't get communicated to the employees. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So you keep the employees in the dark.
It's because of bureaucracy sometimes, and it's really
bureaucracy is here in Europe very big, and they use, because I feel it now living in Switzerland. They use it because it's the data protection here in Europe. In America, the bureaucracy is only 10% what you're experiencing in Europe. Only 10%. It's incredible. I mean, everything you get done online, everything is streamlined. I haven't seen, like, I moved here to Switzerland, I was in shock. Send us a fax. I'm like, I'm sorry, send you what? And I'm not a millennial. A fax. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Last time I used a fax was 20 years ago. They don't even have DocuSign here in Germany or Switzerland. They don't even know what that is. I mean, electronic signature, they're like, no, we don't. You are way too advanced for us. So bureaucracy is one of them. But, we're talking about an organization, a shell that, someone at the lead has to lead that organization. And, global organizations, they have their own problems, but I see it all the time, because how does mobbing manifest? I mean, I always tell people, if you keep this at the same rate, your people are going to leave. And I tell my friends too, when they can't take it anymore, I'm said, you got to look at plan B immediately, like update your resume, start networking. LinkedIn, you don't have to do it on a green light that your company knows what you're doing. Look for a bridge job, get a sabbatical in between and organize yourself like I did, and then figure out what you want to do next. Because right now, all these things that they're so taboo, you have 1 year missing from your LinkedIn or from your resume. No one cares. Trust me. I've seen thousands of resumes, probably over 50, 60,000 in my career when I hired people. I don't care about that. I care about your network. I care about street smarts, book smarts. If you see Elon Musk, he doesn't even want to see your resume. He wants to see you, and you can do the job, you go. I believe in academia and all that, but 10 years from now, at least in the United States, your MBA is going to say nothing about you. Nothing. It's just going to be, oh, you went to Harvard? Oh, yeah, great. You're having Abercrombie and Fitch flip-flops, but you know what you're doing? Get it. I was hired 3 times, never saw my resume. They only saw me. I even asked them, how did you do that? Well, because you walked through the door and you knew exactly, you gave us exactly what we're looking for.
It's about you, it's about your personality more rather than everything else. Yeah, I try to...
The moment, because for example, I decided in the last 2 years I was doing consulting. I'm doing consulting with my job, and I have a very good friend of mine who's also from Germany, lives in the States, and I kept on going to him. I said, hey, I have this business idea where we can create a company and we can acquire data centers. We can keep them for several years, and then we can sell them or keep 2, 3 for ourselves. And 5 years he wasn't interested, and then. The last company that we sold, which we sold for 3.4 billion, I just sent the press release and I said, you see, I keep on telling you, you're not doing this. And I did a project last year in October where you can literally, we bought that business for 2.6 billion, and 4 years later we are selling for 3.4. So, and this is basically just a restructuring. We haven't even sold the business 100%. But by the time we sell the business 100%, it's going to be sold 2.6 billion factor 3, so times 3. So, and now once he saw that press release, the next day he immediately said, oh, I want to hire you. I have friends that they are going to buy these buildings. I'm like, I'm not being hired ever again. If we build a company together, we go 50-50 on this. You bring the finances side of the house. I bring the expertise, because you need an expert in the data center business. They'll go 50-50. I never want to be employed by anybody ever again because of mobbing, because of burnout, because of the fact that I'm a published author, and wherever I'll go, to work for someone is going to be a threat immediately.
So how then, for example, people can recognize that they are in the face of burnout? Because, sometimes people, they're not happy in their work. They leave their job, and after, they get a new job in another company, and actually they start thinking about, oh, I left a job, but this company is the same like previous one. And actually people start maybe realizing that they're suffering from burnout.
Before you jump from the Atlantic into a smaller lake, you got to do research on the next corporation. You got to do research. When we did FiberNet Telecom Group in New York with my partner, who unfortunately passed away, he said, I want my employees to be happy. I mean, we gave benefits to employees. Our turnout rate was almost 0%. Actually, we even had 2 or 3 people that left. We have about 100. So it was a small organization, about 100 people. They left and they came back because they said, oh, no, we're not going back. And he started with the basic things. Health insurance. Everybody got health insurance. Nobody paid any co-payment for the health insurance. This was his philosophy. I want employees to be happy. They will produce. Every employee per capita has to produce. I think the number at that time was between $300,000 and $400,000 a year. And everyone was producing. Everybody was working. It's very simple. If you are working a company and you do see that it's a revolving door, you do see that every other week people are getting fired, people are getting hired, you got to ask yourself, what are you going to do? And if you're researching the next company B that you're going, and you see that they have a revolving door, just don't go there, because guess what's happening? You're going to be into that revolving door and immediately out. So this is where I'm, and the thing that the executives are not looking at, and again, numbers, I calculated, the loss of revenue because of mobbing, because of burnout, because your employees are not producing like a happy Benjamin, right? But the moment your employee leaves, and the time till you find another employee, and the time period that job is not being properly, it brings a loss in average to $150,000. So this is what a lot of the greedy executives don't think about it. Oh, we fired this guy, no problem, hire another one. However, that process, it's costing you $150,000, because if the employee was there for 2-3 years, especially in Europe, is even more. Because in the States, let's take States example. The employee was there for 2-3 years. You have to give him severance. You have to pay for his, if he doesn't take another job and you fired him, you have to pay for his health insurance on the COBRA system plan, which is very expensive. If you did fire him, you have to pay for unemployment benefits. So the thing is that there is also, till now, everybody talks about the health issues, the mobbing, the problem, this and that, but nobody brings also. There's also, of course, all the all the things are more and more important than money. But if you have 10 employees leaving, you're looking at $1.5 million loss. And they don't think about that. And I brought it to HR because, again, I work very closely with every HR person in the company. And for example, also the structure of the company. One time I went to see this client, and on a lunch, the person I was meeting with, him or her, whatever, was like, I'm not happy in the company. I don't know what to do. I'm like, you have to go and talk to HR. She's like, well, guess what? Our HR is run by the legal officer. So the lawyer was doing also HR for the company. I'm like, then you got to leave, because you can't go to talk to HR. And I'm like, I don't understand this. How is it possible that the legal counselor is also human resources? That should never be the case. She's like, that's how they set it up. There's nothing I can do. So you can't go. How are you going to go talk to HR when the lawyer is the chief legal officer of the organization, runs HR? You can't.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it depends on the organization, but sometimes people don't really trust HR, and they have a little bit of kind of fear to go and be transparent and talk about. So, about like burnout or other bullying, or it's a tricky one, I would say.
Well, I mean, again, I'm very happy about the Time's Up, about the Me Too movement, because I can say this because it's public knowledge. I was working with Equinix data centers. They're also in London present. Their CEO, Adam Smith, he did something he shouldn't be done, and this lady went to HR and he got fired on the spot, and he was a CEO. So I believe that this, I don't like to get political, but these movements, they should enable people to go and be able to go to HR. But this lady was very smart, because I knew the story a little bit, but she's like, you're a public company. I either resolve this internally or I go to the press. So it's one or the other. But this is only one case, Diana. Think about it. How many other people, since we started this call, are so unhappy and they have so many problems, and they're afraid to go to talk to HR. They're afraid. They are like, and I was in New Zealand a few years ago, and I was like, my God, everybody's so friendly here. Everybody's so nice. And then I was reading in the newspapers, basically they have so many. That's why I said that example. What can you do for the organization employees are happy? You have to start with the basic things, that they feel like health insurance. It sounds like such a bagatelle, right? But look, for these people in our company, it was very, very important. It was very important. For them, that was like, no co-payment, no nothing. And they felt very secure. They felt, and of course, on top of that, they had more vacation than usual. And don't overload the people with work. Or I've seen things where people are pulled in the weekends to do certain jobs that are so unnecessary. Like sometimes, I'm talking to my wife, and she's like, I'm like, I have to go on a Saturday to meet with the board. Why? Because they want to see the numbers. Why? She keeps asking why. And I'm like, stop asking why, I have to go. No, she's like, I have to go because I'm a neurosurgeon. And if I don't go when they tell me to go, or if I don't fly to Tokyo to perform a surgery on a particular patient, he dies. That's an emergency. That you have to go there with an Excel sheet on a Saturday at 4:00 when actually you should be with us in the family, that's BS, because that Excel sheet is not going to change from Saturday to Monday. So those are things where, I'm like, she's right. And people don't understand. They don't want to get it. But we have to do it because, we're an Excel sheet, we're in a suit. We are pressure, constantly, the numbers, the Wall Street, this and that. And look what happened to my friend John, his dad. He made over $96 million his own money on the last sale of his own company. And now there are 2 children behind it, don't know what to say. And why? Because he never had the time to go to the doctor to see that he has cancer. So he wasn't burnt out. He was cremated from the start.
And how people, for example, can, I know that people need, first of all, to understand that they're in the face of burnout, and then accepting and then deal with that. So how people can deal with burnout? I mean, I experienced burnout probably first time in my life at work. in 2016. And I would say like even now, sometimes it's coming, that kind of anxiety, and I feel a bit kind of nervous about, but how people can deal with that. So I kind of accepting myself, and I start kind of accept that, okay, I'm suffering from burnout and I have to deal with that. And I'm pretty sure different people, they have different kind of, methods, I would say, that they use in order to deal with burnout. But
Well,
from your experience,
as I told you, when you tell someone, "Oh, I have cancer," immediately pay attention to you. When you tell them, "I'm burnout, my mental health is at risk." So the best thing I say is, the first thing is that you have to put your finger on it. You have to recognize that you have burnout, because a lot of people don't even realize it. You have the tunnel thinking like the cops, and you're only after going deals, after closing deals, and your body is doing that because it's trained to do that, and it doesn't recognize it. And I saw my friend who passed away. He didn't recognize that till it was too late. By the time he went to the doctor, the cancer was spread everywhere, and the stress is very poisoning. Again, I'm not a doctor, but when I had health problem, the doctor said, because I said, okay, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I work out, I work a lot because I'm a workaholic. He said, okay, I'm taking this syringe and I'm injecting this in your arm. Poison. That's stress. Stress will do that to you. So first, you have to identify that you have burnout, and then you have to start, doing whatever you need to do. It's not a shame to call a coach. I do have a coach that I'm speaking with every 2 weeks, and I'm checking to see what I'm doing, how I'm doing, because he realized that I have the tendency to go overboard. So you need to have a coach. You need to know your limits. You need to start changing your lifestyle. I don't care. You have to learn how to say no. And things where you have to be extremely disciplined. Like, for example, Ariana Huffington, she went to burnout, and she literally, after working, I was doing 90 hours a week, plus flying in between. So from 7 days, 4 days, I was sleeping in the plane, 3 days in my own bed or in a hotel bed. One time she just passed out in office, and after she realized, okay, this is not good. So you have to start being disciplined, put the phone away, go and get help. It's not a shame to go and get help. Trust me, go and get help immediately. If after this call you feel that something's not all right, go and figure out. And then you gotta work out. You gotta carve time for yourself. It's imperative. And this is something that I didn't do. What happened to me one time? I never ever, for almost 20 years working in the States, put out of office reply. And I was on a private vacation for a week in Japan. And one of my clients, he called the network operations center in the company, said, "Where is Benjamin? Something happened to him." And then people were like, "Why?" Because he said he always replies back to my emails. He always responds back within 24 hours. We haven't heard from him in 3 days. So they almost called the Interpol to register me missing because they didn't know where I was. So that was also my fault, because I gave access to my clients 24/7, and that's not the case. So they called the network operations center to see if something happened to me. No, he's in vacation. Great. Who knew? But this is the thing that I know that it sounds, and those are not things you're going to be able to change today. But you have to identify it, and then you have to manage the risk. You have to start doing risk management on your own health, and you have to cut those hours. I'm very disciplined. The latest 11 p.m. I turn off all electronic devices. Because if I don't, I end up till 6 a.m. I have clients that are around the globe. So they don't know where I'm at. They don't know what I'm doing, and they constantly email me. They constantly call me. If I don't do that, then I can work 24/7.
Yeah, even 11 p.m. it's too late. It's
Well, I still have clients in California or on the East Coast. So if something it's really urgent, but as I said, depending on the job that you do. None of us are doing something where if I don't present that spreadsheet, someone is going to die. Because that's why my wife always laughing at me. She's like, I don't see the urgency over there. But when she gets called in and they come and pick her up from wherever she is, and she has to be there, well, there is a reason, because if not, that patient dies. So that's different. So yes, we had in my industry situation when error human happened and someone cut the cable and the whole country of Argentina didn't have internet access. And of course my phone starts ringing. So I know that it's an emergency. Okay, that happened one time in 5 years, you know what I mean? Or an engineer cut the power at one of the data centers and all the customers, you need to do damage control. But certain things, they really don't have to be done right away, or I've seen so many things that are literally rude and intrusive. Like even with my attorney in America, she told me, "Guess what? I've been called on a Saturday to work on this contract, and I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, that this company will never do what they say they're going to do." And they used her the whole Saturday, so they destroyed her weekend, and we're right. 3 months later, the company disappeared. So things like this, when you recognize them, you just have to stay stop. It's a red light. You can't cross. You cross, you're going to get hit by the train. That's it. But they don't do it. Companies don't do it.
Yeah, sometimes people just accepting because, they might have like mortgages to pay, or they, sometimes they literally accept and stay in that kind of toxic environment. And yeah, I just saw so many people like that, which shouldn't. But yeah, there are some kind of, I would say some kind of reasons behind, for that.
Yeah, I know, but again, most of this comes from the top, and I have numbers to back this up. The American Psychological Association, they said that 75% of the workforce is complaining about a toxic executive. And now with the Me Too movement and with the Times Up movement, you will see that that a lot of these executives are gonna leave. However, in this case, about the case that we're talking, I'm not going to repeat the name again. What stunned me is that he got another position, despite the fact that he did what he did, as a CEO for another multi-billion-dollar company in America, and that to me is, it's an error, because guess what? He's going to do it again. He did it many times before. This time got caught, got fired, and now despite that fact, I don't know how the board approved that. I would have never done that. I would have never. It's going to backfire. It's going to backfire. But this is the problem with the greed, and there are 10,000 CEOs qualified for that position. You don't have to take the problem. And they took the problem, and that's going to backfire.
Yeah, that's why even people, they change so much in the work environment. I mean, I know myself, for example, a couple of years ago, I was a different person. And then when I started working in big corporations in human resources management, then, for example, after a couple of years, I felt like I disconnected, from myself quite a lot. So I supposed to go, to do some kind of psychological sessions with the psychologist, because I felt like it wasn't me anymore, And in this kind of environments, you change a lot, because everything what is happening there, toxic environment, everything has a huge impact psychologically, and we don't realize this.
True. I mean, I was lucky enough that I spent 90% of my time with the customers, because that's what was required from me, and with the investors. But look, I mean, flying 4 million miles in 20 years, basically as 50 flights a year, spending 60%, 40%, more than 60% of my time on the road. I guess that the burnout catch up with me probably. Not necessarily because of a toxic environment, because of the fact that I'm a workaholic. And this is something that I didn't know. And when I went to a coach, he sat down to me and he explained to me, and he said, you have to work with this, because it's like substance abuse. You say, okay, you don't drink and you don't understand, but an alcoholic has a problem, you have another problem. So that's why right now I'm in a position where I said, okay, I have to do this, so I have to be able to control it. Because if I go again, I guess this comes because of the being an athlete. You always have to deliver. I had wherever I was a top producer. Wherever I did, I was extremely successful. But this came with a price, and I paid the price. I mean, and that's why I said, what can we do against it? You have to identify it, because I didn't know. I mean, I had problems. I came out of surgery, and 4 hours later, I was writing a conference call in the hospital. The doctor came in and he said, I either do two things. I either walk out or and take your stuff and throw it out of the window, or I walk out and I never come back, but you're on your own, because I can't do this. I said, well, they call me, they need me. And my wife came, she's like, they need you for what? I have to be on the call with this customer from China, otherwise we lose a deal that's worth $100 million. She's like, okay, so good. I have to pay only 15,000 euros to bury you. That's it. So decide what it's going to be. So this is the thing. a lot of people, and then of course, it's not so easy to take an exit. I mean, the funny thing is that I had people that worked for me even 20, 15 years ago, and we not even announced what I'm going to do next. They already called me. I want to work for you again. I want to work with you. I want to work for you, because I did exactly the opposite what these greedy managers are doing. When I was flying with them, if I was upgraded first class, I would upgrade them with me. If they were in coach and I was in first class, I'll fly coach with them. I would make sure that they were happy. I made sure they were promoted. I made sure that I did the VERR, the valued, empowered, recognized, and rewarded. You don't see that happening those days. I don't see it. After the financial crisis in America was like, well, we don't have President's Club anymore because we cannot flaunt our money to go here and go there. Before then, I was invited as a provider for a company I'm not going to mention. They had a private party where they flew everybody with a private jet in Capri, and they had a party. They spent like $5 million on it. The CEO didn't even care. They didn't even blink. So do not come and tell me that Goldman Sachs, who has a terrible toxicity in their environment, is publicly knowledge, where people are working 85 hours a week, where they were supposed to be 40. The CEO still gets paid $81 million a year. He doesn't care. He never cared. He will never care. He will never listen to Benjamin and Diana. They go to them and say, hey, we cannot do this anymore,
Yeah, because sometimes people treat people like instruments rather than assets. So,
I mean, I've been in a lot of meetings because most of the people that I had to deal with were C-level, and certain things that were said in those meetings, honestly, sometimes I didn't want to hear them, because, and in a way, right now, when I see with these movements again, I feel culpable. Well, sometimes I would say my opinion because I'm entitled to my opinion. I don't have to criticize you, but sometimes I would tell you, I'm like, but you see, I experienced mobbing in a different way. I guess I brought that basically on myself, but it was also from the demand that I had and the pressure that I had. But other than that, I would never let anyone bully me. That's not going to work. So, and I know this cost me a lot, but I just told them as it was. I mean, and the first thing was threat, and I remember one time I was working with Jamie, my business partner back in the day, and I said, I didn't even say anything, I didn't even do anything. I just walked in the room, and it's already a problem. She's like, do you have a mirror at home? Just look in the mirror. You're tall, you're good looking, you're smart, you have a presence. The moment you walk into the room, people notice. You know exactly what to say, when to say it, not to say it. They immediately intimidated. I mean, I was like, but I didn't even do anything. She's like, well, they're already laying the ground for you. That they're already thinking, what do we have to do to get this guy out? That's how they're thinking. Instead of thinking, wait a second, this guy's a top producer. Let's give him what he needs so he can go and bring more, right? No. They won. A C-level executive in that company already was laying the groundwork on how to get me out. And he couldn't. So, and then at one point, there was a decision that was to be made, either him or me. And he had to go. They kept me. And I didn't even know about it. All this was happening. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying about transparency. Come to me and tell me. But what am I going to change? You can't change me, right? You can make me smaller. You can make me fat. You can make me stupid, because it's not going to work. So there's nothing you can do. So either one has to go or the other. So in this case, and I only found out about the whole situation like after we sold the business. I said, oh, by the way, what happened with that guy? Oh, no, now we can tell you what happened. And I had no idea. So that's why I'm saying there are a lot of things that happen in the background that you have no control over it, and you cannot influence them. And people make decisions for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ben. It was really interesting, and thank you so much, for sharing with the audience these important examples. And I actually learned so many things from you, in that 54 minutes. And it's really important because, as you said, people experience moving in a different way, burnout also in a different way. You experience with at C-level, where you share these examples are really important for people, because some people, they at that stage they deal with C-level. Some people, they don't deal yet with the C-level, but at least they can learn from your example, which is brilliant. Thank you so much.
Some signs are, again, if you don't see transparency in the interview already, you can recognize those things. And I've done it numerous times, because a lot of companies, they wanted to hire me now, and I'm not interested in being hired, because now, thankfully, I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing for a long time. But everything has its time. But in the moment interview, when they tell you again, you have to hit the ground running, we're looking for rock stars, those are sentences that were used since the 50s. And you have to turn that around, and you have to say, what about, I want to see the transparency here. I want to see what you guys are going to do for me. Who's going to be in charge for my training? So you can ask those questions in a very professional and subtle way that they don't know what you're looking for, but this is what you should be looking for. Who's going to do the onboarding for me? How long is the onboarding going to be for me? And I see people that go in interviews and they don't ask the right questions. It's called an interview for a reason.
I agree with you.
It's not a dictatorship. I had so many people that were coming in the interview, they were sitting there. Okay. And I would ask her the question. I'm like, do you have any questions for me? No. I'm like, and I would be like, okay, this is not going to work. And I would close this. Unofficially, I told him, you have to ask me at least 10 questions, but I don't know what to ask. Well, you have to ask me who's going to be in charge of this, who's going to be in charge of that, who are you reporting to, what's going to be the structure. Ask all these things. Yeah, but if I ask all these things, I come across rude. I'm like, it's called an interview for a reason,
Yeah, exactly. I remember, a few years ago in London, I was applying for L&D job, learning and development job. And I remember it was a construction company, and I went for an interview. And at the end of the interview, they actually ask candidates if they have any questions. And I said, okay. So I was looking on the website, and I saw that you have these awards, blah, blah. But what is not so well known about your company? And they said, well, that is a really good question. I like that. And obviously, because we are a construction company, we subcontract services from subcontractors. And in case if something is happening, we don't actually have the responsibility for anything that our subcontractors do. And I was like, okay, thank you. And when I left the interview, I said, okay, if you told me this during the interview process, that means maybe you don't really have responsibility for your employees. That actually, maybe I made a wrong assumption, but I was feeling this, and I didn't really want to go back, and I said, even they were going to offer me the interview, I felt like I was not the right person for that.
This is very important. You have to recognize this. And what I'm saying, I know I just say broadly because we don't have so much time. Research the corporate culture before you go. So 20 years ago, researching a startup that doesn't even have a website, doesn't even exist, there are only 5 people over there, is very hard to do. I got very lucky, right? Because it was chemistry and we all had a common goal. But now if you go and apply for any Fortune 500 company or Fortune 1000, if you don't do your homework, you're on your own, because especially if they are public companies, it takes only 10 minutes. But I hate to say this, none of them are doing their work. None of them, nobody's doing homework. I had so many interviews in the last 5 years where the company, despite being public, private, or whatever the company I was representing, they would come in and they would not know anything about the company. I said, but did you look at the website? Did you, or just ask questions where to strike a conversation? So you show me that you're going to be able to strike a conversation with the next CEO. Meaning, how did you come up with the logo? How did you come up with the name of the company? Crazy stuff. Put it up your hair. I don't care. You come with something and then start asking questions in the interview process, because when you start doing that, you are showing me that you're interested. So. No one knows everything, but now you have people have the capability to do so many things. Right now I'm doing this new business. Before I even move forward in the next 2 weeks, when I'm going to be very busy to meet with the lawyers and put everything together, I'm doing so much research. I'm reading so many press releases from so many similar other things that when I'm talking to my business partner, I was like, oh my God, you're reading a lot again, because I want to know exactly who are we going to choose as a partner? Are we going to go with this investor, with the other investor? Which investor is better? Which investor is going to, support us when we need this and this? So, and it's the same thing when you are looking for a job. And the other thing is, I know that, we didn't touch on that one, but the exit strategy. If you can't take it anymore and you've been there for a while and you haven't been promoted and you haven't had a salary increase and you have done your best and you got nothing in return, it's time to pack and go. Exit.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Diana. Have a
people
great day.
who actually, listening and watching us. And I will see you on 19th of April, where we will going to discuss about well-being and resilience with Lisa Brennan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a productive week and a really good day.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay safe. Thank you.